Hello, let's talk today a little bit about nutrition and energy flow. So, nutrition, energy flow, food. Why do we need food? Well, we all need food for energy. Here's a roadrunner. It runs using energy. It takes energy to move. It takes energy to think. Probably. It takes energy to it takes energy for a flower to open. It takes energy for a bee to buzz around. All living things need energy. That's the first point. So the question is, where does the energy come from? Almost all cases you can trace it back to the sun. Alright, with the exception of deep sea vents, which I don't think I'll talk about. So here we are with a food chain. And yes, if you can see, these organisms that eat depend on the sun at the beginning. So autotrophs, the self-feeders, they make their own food. They do not depend on anything else. They don't eat anything else. They do not eat. They convert the sun's energy and carbon dioxide and water into oxygen. They can feed themselves. They produce starches, things that they can use later on in respiration. They are the autotrophs, the first step of the food chain. Autotrophs make their own food from inorganic compounds, right? Non-living compounds, carbon dioxide, water, they bring them together. The words autotroph and producer are synonymous. Yes, autotrophs can also be called producers, because they produce energy, they produce food, they produce stored food. Now, we think of autotrophs as being plants. Yes, they are plants. They can be grass, trees, bushes. However, there are also single-celled eukaryotic organisms that are autotrophs. And there's also some in the sea, plankton, whatever. Alright. So how about things that are not autotrophs? If you're a squirrel, or if you're a cow or a sheep, you're going to get your energy from eating autotrophs. So you're not going to make your own food. You're going to eat the food produced by an autotroph. Or if you're a lion, you're going to eat, you're going to kill and you're going to eat a zebra or something that's a heterotroph. You're also a heterotroph. Heterotrophs, these are organisms that cannot make their own food and feed on others. Right. Herbivore. A herbivore is an organism that feeds only on plants. So that's right. The zebra, it feeds only on plants. Elephants as well, they feed only on plants. Cows, sheep, they feed on plants. They're herbivores. The carnivore. So the carnivore is going to be that step up on the food chain. So you have your zebra, you have your grass that's eaten by the zebra, and then the lion comes along to kill and eat the zebra. And those animals that kill and eat other animals are called carnivores. So lion is one, tiger probably another one, hyenas, animals of that nature. Scavengers, they're also meat eaters, and they would probably also be fairly high on the food chain, but they don't actually kill their own food. Instead, they take the leftovers of the lion or whatever predator has killed the herbivore. Omnivores eat both plants and animals. That includes ourselves. We're omnivores, but we're not the only ones. Also, bears are omnivores, and I think raccoons, chimpanzees, all omnivores. They eat both plants and animals. And decomposers, so if the scavengers don't get it, then the decomposers can. Alright, and they will return the nutrients to the soil so that the producers may use those molecules again. So it's a little bit like a circle. The circle of life. Matter and energy flow. Matter and energy flow in ecosystems. So this is what we talk about when we talk about food chains. Okay. A food chain is a simple model that scientists use to show the flow of energy and matter in ecosystems. Yes, okay, this is a simple model, and in this model, it's a food chain. We have the producer grass, the autotroph, and that is being eaten by a grasshopper, which is here, which is the primary consumer, and then that is eaten by the secondary consumer. And I guess in this case we could say carnivore, because it's eating, killing and eating something, is the frog. Or no, but maybe the frog would be an omnivore, who knows. Same thing can be said for the next one, which is a snake. And then we have that being predated on by an eagle, or sorry, a hawk. Alright, so we can see that the energy is flowing. Alright, it's going from one consumer to another consumer to another consumer, and they're all taking energy. Food chains have 3 links, but usually, I should say usually no more than 5. And that is because there is it's not very efficient at all. In fact, there's only 10% of the energy goes up each step in the food chain. That means 10% of all the so for example, in this last example, it's only 10% of all this grass, the molecules in this grass, end up as being incorporated into the grasshopper. Alright, even though I'm talking about energy, you can also talk about biomass. And in each stage, there's only 10%. Food webs are more realistic than food chains. So yes, because it's not always so linear. Alright, for example, here you have if we talk about the mouse, here we have the mouse here. Right, the mouse here is not just one animal that eats the mouse. You've got the owl that will eat the mouse, you have the snake, and you also have this wildcat as well. So it's not as simple as A eats B and C eats B and D eats C and all the rest of it. Okay, it's more complex than that. And the food web is a bit more realistic way of drawing these things. Right. So we're talking about food chains again. Each organism on a food chain represents a feeding step or trophic level. Okay, and we are going to take a look at soon food pyramids. Okay, and as I said, on each step of, here are the steps. Here we've got producers, and we've got 4 levels here in this case: primary, secondary, tertiary, consumer. And as we can see, going up here, there is a decrease in biomass. Right, there's a decrease in biomass, but there's also a decrease in energy. So as we go up here, all the grass, the trees, the crops, they're all 90% of it is lost, maybe because, and only 10% is actually incorporated into the bodies of these primary consumers. And then only 10% of their molecules go into the secondary consumers, and likewise only 10% here. And then finally we've got, so as we can see, 100% of the energy absorbed by the producers to produce themselves, and then there's a decrease in energy, and by the time you get up here it's only 0.01% of that sunlight is in the body of this hawk. And that's why you get fewer, that's why there are fewer of these apex predators, right? The very top of the pyramid of one of these ecological energy flow pyramids, the very top, that something that is not eaten by anything else is called the apex predator, but there are fewer of them. And for example, there's an Indian saying that for every mountain there's only one tiger, and that's because even though that mountain can support a lot of grass, a lot of trees, a lot of whatever, it can only support one tiger, because that tiger is going to require so many, whatever it eats, rabbits or whatnot, to maintain it. And so I think it's just, all I want to say is that there's fewer of them than the primary conductors. Ecologists find the biomass at each level by finding the average weight of each species at the trophic level and then multiplying by the estimated number of species. Okay, but thankfully I don't think there are many calculations that you're asked to make, I think, on these kind of ecological questions. Yes, energy is always recycled. Okay, so I'm going to make a separate video for this. But sunlight is always putting energy into the system, and the energy is being lost as heat. But biomass is not being entered in. There's not meteors, or it's not significant that meteors are hitting the Earth, bringing new carbon and new nitrogen. Everything is I will go into more detail in another video about that.